The Great Kingdom of Aerdy is one of the most important countries in the Flanaess, and I want to talk about it today on Greyhawk Wars. Now, the Great Kingdom is one of the most important countries, as I said, and it's not possible for me to cover it in any kind of depth in a video like this. It would take days to go through all the material that's available. So I want to give like a high level overview of what's going on in the Great Kingdom throughout the history of the setting as it's published. So the first we hear of it in the published setting material is in the Folio and then in the guide to the World of Greyhawk, where we learn that the Great Kingdom, and I'm here reading from the brief outline of history that's given in minus two something. The Great Kingdom is the founding of the Kingdom of Aerdy. So Aerdy is like the official name of the Great Kingdom. Then we have the Battle of a Fortnight's Length, about which we know very little at this stage. It's kind of retconned in later. The Overking is crowned in Roxaze. Roxaze is the capital of the Great Kingdom. And if you look at the other side of the map, this is Roxaze. This is the Great Kingdom. The Great Kingdom spans all the way from here down to here. It's immense in the scale of the setting. But that's but that's not. This is the Great Kingdom at its decline. Um, the Overking is crowned in Roxaze in the year one. That is the basis for the common year system of the calendar in Greyhawk. Is the crowning of the Overking. And the frontiers of the Great Kingdom reach Greyhawk City. So we're actually talking that at this point, when the Great Kingdom is officially founded, it goes all the way from over here, and it, of course, goes off the map here, all the way over here to the city of Greyhawk. So we're getting just about half the continent is under the control of the Great Kingdom when it is founded. As it expands later, the Great Kingdom actually reaches all the way over to here, all the way over to Furiondi and so forth. So it's this immense empire that really defines the uh, the the landscape and the political history of the Flanaess. The closest analogy I could think of would be Charlemagne's empire or the Holy Roman Empire. If you think of the Thule Imperium as the Roman Empire, because it's destroyed and it only echoes through history. But if we have the later follow up empire, the Great Kingdom, that's more like Charlemagne or the Holy Roman Empire, where it spans an immense area of Europe, but not doesn't quite reach those heights of the original. Hi, everybody. Please help me keep Greyhawk alive by liking this video and subscribing. It really does help. You can also become a member of the channel or support me on Patreon and get early access to my videos, exclusive content, free or at-cost copies of my Greyheim Adventures modules, and more. Thanks, and now back to the show. So starting around the year 320, so roughly 250 years before the current year of 576, that's when the outer dependencies of the Great Kingdom start to break away. So you have places like Furiondi and Valuna. They start to break away from the Great Kingdom. The outer provinces are declaring their independence, and that's weakening the Great Kingdom. About 35 years later, the kingdom of Niron, which is on their doorstep and later becomes a great rival, breaks away. So now, about 220 years ago, from the current year, that's when we start to have the current size and shape of the Great Kingdom as it's known really become established. And in the course of just 300 years, it goes from owning pretty much the entire continent to just being driven away to the eastern third of the continent. So that's an enormous change in its political fortunes, and it's attended by a lot of other things. So we have about 140 years ago. There's the turmoil between crowns. Again, that's just an evocative phrase here that Gygax wrote. We don't really know much about it until later when it's retconned in. Um, and then something that's very pivotal. We have the founding of the Iron League, and there is some more information about that as we'll get to. But that takes place about 110 years before the current year. So the Iron League is down here. It's these dependencies of what is known as South Province, because the Great Kingdom has the Overking's lands in the middle, and then there's something called North Province at the top, and it controls over here, over here. All this area is North Province, and down here, South Province has the same thing. It starts here and it goes all the way down. It has this entire area down here. And there's also right here the Sea of Medegia. It's a clerical realm that is ruled. But everything is under the suzerainty of the Overking. But as time wears on, they become more and more independent. But here we see that South Province almost disintegrates. Uh, the one, two, three, four different areas which used to be part of South Province break away and form their own countries. And this is an enormous shakeup in the Great Kingdom because they've already lost all those outer provinces and outer dependencies. Now some of their core remaining provinces are starting to break up, and it becomes an enormous problem. And there is a low grade ongoing war between South Province and the Great Kingdom on one hand, and the Iron League on the other. The Iron League consists of Sundi, ID, Cornwall, and Irongate, the free city of Irongate. Plus, there's a lot of dwarves and trolls and so forth that are allies with them. They also have an ally in Niron, and this is Niron is providing them with money and all kinds of things because they want to see the Great Kingdom set back because they're still right because the Great Kingdom still doesn't like them from when they broke off. So we have that simmering thing going on, and then what is only 14 years before the current year, the Bone March up here is lost to humanoids. Humanoids from the Rakers over here come in and sweep in and take away the Bone March. So half of North Province disappears. So we've got these outer provinces that are being whittled away and they're really upsetting the Overking because how if these um, if these vassals of mine can't even hold on to their own territory, what's going to happen to my empire? So that is the stage as we have it seen set at the beginning of the campaign in 576. We have this once vast empire that has shrunk over the centuries, and now its last bastions are being whittled away too, and it's that paranoid sort of siege mentality that we get an impression of from that outline of history. Now we do get an entry in the guide for the Great Kingdom, and it's the brilliance of Gygax's writing that this is only 3 paragraphs. It's one of the most pivotal places in the entire setting, and he describes it with such brevity in 3 paragraphs. It's got a population of 5 million, including everything, including South and North provinces and Medegia and so forth. There's also some the sea barons are off the map here. But he glosses over everything because remember this is supposed to have been written in setting by somebody, and he says the history of the Great Kingdom is too well known to dwell upon here. Okay, so the author of the book in the setting says I'm not going to go through the history. You all know that already. When of course we as the gamers don't know anything about it, and that's the brilliance of it. It lets the gamers, it lets the DM fill in what that history could be. The DM gets to define what some of those pivotal events are, and I love that. After a millennium of leadership, its rulers and nobles turned to evil and irrationality. Its current monarch, Ivid V of the royal house of Naelax, is reported to be quite mad, but crafty and deviously capable nonetheless. His writ extends to the royal demesne surrounding the capital, the Grand Wood, and further only by threat and persuasion of the peers whose fiefs comprise the balance of the realm. And then it goes on to talk about the army and so forth. Um, both North and South provinces are under the suzerain, yeah, or under the control of Aerdy royal houses and are ruled almost as independent states. Um, the troubles in the Bone March have caused the Herzog of the North to fall into line, as the difficulties with the Iron League brought his southern counterpart into closer cooperation with the Malachite throne. I love that, the Malachite throne. It's so evocative, and you know exactly what they're talking about. That's the Overking's throne, and it's made out of this solid hunk of malachite, which is a green and black striated stone. Um, uh, the Sea Barons pay a token tribute to the Overking and conduct their piratical operations under letters of marque. bearing the Overking's seal. So this that you get all this really beautiful stuff in just 3 paragraphs. It's wonderful. It's also worth noting that when Minifigs was doing the World of Greyhawk miniatures back in the day, they had a whole range of stuff for the Overking's guards and so forth, which I believe was repurposed from another fantasy line that they had. But it still looks really cool, and they have blowkites and stuff. It's a really fun thing. On the If you go on the blog in the free resources, you'll see my minifigs listing with campaign notes in there, and you'll see them there. So that's the stage that's set. Is we have this great empire, formerly great empire, in decline, given to madness, given to demon worship, and thus the stage is set. In Dragon magazine, after the World of Greyhawk box set was published, Gary Gygax started doing a series of articles called Events of the Flyness, and he details, what's going on over here, and this army moved here, and Ayuz had a battle here. But he also did several articles that covered what was going on in the Great Kingdom, and it's a fascinating insight into how he viewed the ordinary day-to-day stuff in the Great Kingdom would be, because there's wars everywhere. The rebels are attacking Imperial troops in the Adri Forest. We have a kind of a low-level war going on between South Province and the Iron League, and he details, they have this many troops and they're maneuvering here, and there's a skirmish there, and there's this infighting between the members of the Iron League and so forth. And it really is great, and it's doubly great because when Carl Sargent did Greyhawk Wars and From the Ashes, he used these articles as kind of a jumping off point. They're completely compatible, and they go seamlessly from what Gary Gygax was talking about in Dragon in the early 1980s into what we see in the Greyhawk Wars. It's really great stuff, and it works well together. Gygax's original intention was to do the entire Flyness because he's moving the timeline ahead incrementally. It covers 577 and 578, so he's taking it forward a year or two. And his intention was to just keep going, and every couple of years he'd nudge the timeline ahead, and you'd see what was going on. And it was really, really cool stuff. But obviously, he never got the chance to do it. In fact, he didn't even finish his first go round on the Flyness. I did that. If you look on GreyhawkRagnar.com in the free resources section, you'll see a series of Dragon magazine articles where I basically finished that series 577 and 578. So do seek that out, and definitely seek out Gary's originals, because it's really, really great stuff. And Rob Kuntz did one too, where he goes into the demonic Knights of Doom and so forth. It's just all kinds of really great, interesting material, but it's not too much, right? It's enough to give you flavor, and it's enough to give you some names and some events to hang on, but it doesn't bury you with detail. So it's really, really well done, and it's really, really helpful if you are interested in that kind of stuff. So next up, we have the Greyhawk Wars. And I know a lot of people have issues with the Greyhawk Wars. I have my own issues with it. It's really a series of different wars across the Flyness that were kind of lumped together into this overarching thing as a sort of product placement thing. It's much better if you think about it as Ayuz did something, and the Great Kingdom had stuff going on, and the Scarlet Brotherhood had stuff going on, and the giants attacked, as separate things. It's much easier to think of it in those terms. But for convenience sake, it's called the Greyhawk Wars. And it was published as a game. The game actually comes with this wonderful adventurer's book, which is basically a a trial. Not a trial, a prose accounting of the wars and so forth, and it has some scenarios for the game in the background. But it's a wonderful account, and it's got lots of cool details in it. And basically, what happens specifically in the Great Kingdom is that the Great Kingdom is about to invade uh, Almor, right? That's another clerical realm, and it's closely allied with Nine. And they're about to invade. So an Almorian general named Asen comes in and basically punches through and invades this and invades the Great Kingdom. And he fools around there for about a year or two, and is ultimately destroyed. But it completely shatters the confidence of the Great Kingdom, and they invade Almor and wipe it out. And then there's a bunch of maneuvering goes on, and the upshot of it is the Overking kills all of his generals. They're reanimated as undead generals called Animus, and by the priest of Hextor, and the Great Kingdom basically collapses. The North Province and South Province break off into their own things. Medigia is pretty much destroyed by the armies of the Overking because they think because the Overking thought he was being disloyal, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. The upshot of it is that the Great Kingdom is basically undone. It collapses. The Overking has a little bit of land in the center, and then the rest is just this hellscape with demons and undead and stuff going around, and humanoids. So that is where the Greyhawk Wars leave the Great Kingdom. There's tons of details in here, and I believe you can get this on drive through. It's well worth it if you're interested in the history of it. But that's where the Greyhawk Wars leave us, is the final dissolution of the Great Kingdom of Aerdy. Okay, now last but not least, we have Ivid the Undying. This was written by Carl Sargent. They were doing a series of source books for the post Greyhawk Wars era, which takes you between 585 and 591, roughly. They had done the Marklands, which covers Nyrond and Furiondi. They did I Use the Evil. They did one of these. Now, it was never actually published. It was released as a PDF by Wizards of the Coast and or TSR or whoever. No, it's TSR, and it was released as a PDF. And fans over the years took the file and formatted it all nice, and made the cover and made the maps and so forth. So you can find those online. Just Google Ivid the Undying, and you'll find it. It is fantastic. Not only does it cover what's going on in the post-wars era, but it also gives a really nice history of the different of the Great Kingdom and the different regions. It has tons of details about people and the rump states that followed the collapse of the Great Kingdom. So you have what happens to North Province and South Province, the Kingdom of the North, and so forth. There's uh, the Ivid's enclave right in the middle of everything, where it's just he's still this undead tyrant, and it's just a hellscape. But things in general are getting more normalized outside of that region. We have consolidation of the North and the South into their own kingdoms, and uh, uh, Medigia is starting to dig out of the utter destruction that was leveled on it. They've got gazetteer of the whole area. They've got Roxy's different cities, the different the Western lands and the Almorian lands, and they've got military forces and so forth. So it's a wonderful, wonderful. It's I mean it's let's see. 158 or more pages, so it's not something I can go into any depth, but it gives such great details on everything if you want to carry a Great Kingdom campaign into the future. So um, it's highly, highly recommended. And like I say, it's a free download. You can find it in a bunch of places online. So do seek it out. Even if you're not running a campaign in that era, it's got tons of information that'll be really helpful going into the past if you're in 576 or 77 or anything like that. So that's a brief thumbnail of the Great Kingdom. It goes from this continent-spanning empire to in just a couple hundred years later, it's thrown back to its to a very small, a relatively small area that's still the biggest country in the continent. And then it just gets whittled away, and then there's this knockout blow in the Greyhawk Wars, and the whole thing collapses like a rotten chair under when you sit on it. So um, uh, it's definitely a really cool place. It's got tons of places to adventure. No matter what area you're in, because there's always stuff going on. There's tons of political intrigue. I love political intrigue campaigns, and this is the place for it. You can have intrigue in Ivid's court, which it would be as dangerous as anything. There's all kinds of things that you could do in this era, and you could actually follow the flow of history in your campaign. Your characters don't have to be a part of the events to be impacted by them, and that's exactly how I approach it when I have a campaign that goes that long, is that they're witnesses to history, but they don't necessarily have to be part of those events. So it's definitely a wonderful place to go. And I know most people, when they're doing Greyhawk campaigns, they tend to go to the west. Think about going to the east into the Great Kingdom, because there's a lot of potential there. So anyway, I'd love to hear your experiences. Have you done anything with the Great Kingdom or North Province or any of those associated places? Do let me know in the comments. I would love to hear about it. Hope you enjoyed this one. I know it was a little longer than usual, but it's a big topic. Hope you're having a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will talk to you all. Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store where you can buy my books, and my blog where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.